Hello, welcome to the Squarebase Show. I'm your host, Rob, and I'm joined by Mr. Val Heffelfinger for an update about the world's largest old world event.
Yes, it is the world's largest old world event.
It is the world's
I can't
largest.
do it anymore.
It's the world's largest old world event. It's the world's biggest ever international old world event. It's got the most players anyone's ever had, and like the thumbnail says, we gave nearly 100 different players around the world unlimited resources to choose any army that they wanted. And ladies and gentlemen, you're going to find out about that right now. It's a pretty exciting title.
I mean, we're really pleased with the title. It's done excellent in the focus groups, aka the chat between me and Rob. Rob's going to need me to vamp a little bit this show.
Yeah.
He's made a full recovery, folks. So yeah, I'm really, really excited. We were a little delayed even getting off the ground for our delayed show today because I was repairing some no-shows. Now, Rob, out of 100-ish people playing in an online event with somewhat strangers, although they know each other, everyone knows each other more now through the Discord, thanks to the exhibition round. Great little thing. How many people were no-shows, Rob?
What?
Out of 100. I mean, come on. I mean, they're human beings. 4 is right. We had 4. 4 no-shows. Like, that to me is remarkable. Really, really cool that people are that with it and engaged with it. It is now fully doors closed. So unfortunately, if anyone's watching this, I want to do that. One, the people who are playing in the SBOT, if you scroll down, there's some looking for games channels. These people are just monsters. They love to play old world. If you ever want an online game in old world, just go down to the looking for game in the SBOT channel. I'm sure you can find one. People get one game a week now. That's not enough to satiate the thirst that exists amongst our patron community. So if you want to try Warhol or just try old world, get an army out on the virtual tabletop, test something out, learn the rules. It's a really great way to learn the rules. Become a patron today. Hop on in there, and you will find games. I promise.
I'm gonna admit something now. I haven't told you this, so this is gonna be a live admittal. The Patreon Discord now is scary. There's too many people. Normally I'm this is my domain. This is right. This is my shit. But now I'm there's a lot of fucking people in here, man. They're all talking about the old world all the time. Shut up. It's too much.
We're gonna for this. It also finally motivated Rob and I to get our Square-based FAQ off the ground. And I will say that as incredibly frustrating as the people are who are working as hard as they can to come up with the most absurd ways to read rules, it is an excellent resource when trying to think of things and trying to craft FAQ answers. So the people who make me swear out loud multiple times a day, I just want to say thank you for your service, and you are making us better and the game better by being tremendously pedantic assholes. And keep it up.
Yeah, well, so loads to cover, which is going to be a really, really good time. But before we do anything else, if you are watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast, make sure you leave comments below where you wish Mr. Val Heffelfinger a happy birthday. So it was his birthday yesterday, and not only was he organising the SBOT on his birthday, he's also recording this post his birthday. He would have recorded this on his birthday, but I have been ill for a week or so. And so I was unable to make it. But we're recording day after, so that's nice. And happy birthday to you, buddy.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to you, pal.
Thank you. I really do appreciate the wishes. I am 40.
Shut up. Is it the big one?
Big 4-0. It feels great. I don't know. It feels good. Maybe it's because, as one commenter once said, I dress like a child. It keeps me young. Life... that was the guy who had trouble, the most angry person about my hats.
Oh, yeah.
Was why you got to dress like a 14-year-old.
Have you noticed he doesn't comment it anymore?
I imagine you made it so that was impossible.
No, I Jay and Silent Bobbed him. I've been around his house.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if anyone's ever seen Michael Jordan, but like I think the thing about life is eventually you just keep dressing the same way that you did whenever you felt comfortable. Michael Jordan loves his like baggy like cargo jean shorts, and no one's gonna stop him. And I am kind of the Michael Jordan of nothing, actually.
The old world.
So
No,
that's a
not
bad
true.
analogy.
No, you're the Michael Jordan of the old world.
I'm more of a Charles Barkley character, I would think, in the old world.
No,
but
you're the Madden of the old world. Come on, let's put some respect
I'd give
on
myself Madden. I'd give myself Madden.
I'm gonna let you be Madden in the old world. That's fine.
Yeah, I'd give it. Like just really bizarre but engaging takes all the time. That works for me. It's a good thing. So yeah, my birthday was a very happy one. I got to play actually I got to play tons last week. I played an online game. I played an in-person game here in La Casita, and I played at X Planet Games.
Wait, did you play X Planet this weekend?
Yeah, that was last weekend. I played my Empire. And here in La Casita, I played Devin, who is on the Discords as. Oh no, that's my least favorite thing about Discord is that everyone else has a fake name, not just me. Tough bastard on the Discord. He's local to me. Again, a new friend made digitally wonderfully. He played Skaven and turned him into a nice pink mist. It was great because I've been running my gunline empire,
which we did talk about last week.
So. We did touch on that last week.
All right. Well, I'm excited to hear about the tournament and get all that information. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Val's been at a tournament. We got the SBOT, which is kind of and if you don't know, if you just tune in because the thumbnail has been very evocative, what effectively we're talking about is. We're talking about 100 people playing, or 97 people playing, 98, whatever, playing digitally online and then having the resources to be able to build any army that they want. And there is some really interesting kind of like fallout from that statement, which we're going to talk about, which is cool. So, that's effectively some of the talking points that we're going to be going through today. But Val, do you want to catch us up about your tournament at X Planet Games?
Why don't we not bury the lead? We can get to me because I also after that I'll talk about my list as I changed it for SBOT from what I ran at X Planet. So why don't we talk about SBOT, what the people came for, what they clicked for, and then we'll talk about me because that's my favorite topic at the end.
All right, fine. Okay, so the SBOT, if you don't know, is an online tournament that Val's organised, which has been great. Creatively named, yeah. And it's actually quite a good title, SBOT. Anyway, so 100 people. So now's the time. Shall I show them the slide? Now's the time to have a guess. So chat, because we're doing this live, and people who are watching, what do you think is the most popular army, and which army has not been chosen? I have 97 people. Which army did not get chosen to be played in an online tournament? The guess is in. Here we go. These are the results. So, the most popular is Orcs and Goblin Tribes, 12.63% of the meta, which is wild. And then Tomb Kings of Khemri, 11.58% of the meta. So meta, again, if you are new and you're like, what the hell are these guys talking about? This is the percentage of this is basically about the representation. How many players chose those specific armies? So the most popular choice was Orcs and Goblins. The least popular choice was Skaven. And if you're looking for... Val, you tell them about the one. Tell them about the one.
Well, it's not... Skaven is not, in fact, the least popular, sir. No, it's those... I apparently, by decree, have annihilated Dark Elves from the existence in Old World by saying that they should be...
That's stunning.
Just be on notice, everyone out there, that just how powerful my words are. That I stated at one point when we did our hilarious tier list. You can watch that one too if you like, of armies to collect and play. I said Dark Elves least good. I thought they sucked, and seems like everyone in the world agrees. I don't think, by the way, that Dark Elves need to be gotten rid of, but it is stunning to me that not a single player likes them enough to want to play them over and above their rules. Also, as a follow-on to that, they're goody-goody two-shoed buddies. The High Elves are the lowest ranked. Oh no, second. Well, no, Beastmen are after that, but the High Elves are one of the lowest ranked factions, which surprises me because they've got at least one very powerful build, and I would think are a pretty popular group. Those High Elves.
If we could just take a moment, just in case anyone's getting confused, Val did not ban Dark Elves from playing at the event. No one selected them, and he's referencing when we talked about them, and he made a joke about them not being in the game. So just to be clear, so no one is like, I'm about to kick off. Because
so there you go. For folks for the next SBOT, there's the decree on the door of the monastery. It's out there. The challenge has been thrown. Who will play Dark Elves in the next SBOT? SBOT 2 already in pre-production. The sequel is planned, launching in the fall. Going to be exciting.
Huge
Rob
moments.
might even join us. We'll see.
Well, I'd love to not get flu. I'd love that. That'd be great. It'd be the best. Okay, so
That's true.
But I'm gonna jump.
Okay, that was a low blow. I did not put those two things. Okay. So I basically, okay.
That was unfair.
That was unfair.
And
that was
also be
unfair, and I retract the statement.
I'd also be slipped the entire rule system for another game system at the same time. Cut me a
Power of
break.
the NDA.
Yeah, power of the NDA that I've signed. Okay, so I'm going to jump straight in with this. So don't forget, no one needs to play the army that they have at home. It's a digital format. Everyone's playing on Warhol, which is a website / app that you can get for playing, your games. So the real point here is, in my personal opinion, is Val, why do you think, and also I guess question to everyone who's watching at home, why do you think the most popular faction is an army that you can build and buy right now from Games Workshop? Why isn't everyone doing their dream Chaos Dwarf super expensive army, or what is it do you think that's made that be the situation? I know you've had some thoughts about it.
Well, I think that it speaks to what I think Warhol is for, which is not to replace IRL. This is not to mean like people who are playing. I don't actually. That should be something I should ask. How many people are just online only players? There are a lot of people who I know have told me that they have trouble getting games, or they're still building their army, so they can't play them. But this is a way to learn your army, get it on the table, get a feel for it, learn the rules, and play against people on a frequent basis. So I did the same thing. I played a list. I've been practicing a list that I then brought to an in-person tournament. Right. So it's a great way to do that. I bet you not everyone is playing exactly with the model set that they have, but it's probably, also reflective of, you want to play the armies that the army that you love, and not necessarily just the one that's the most OP, even if it's digital. That being said, the one here that shocks me, well, maybe not shocks me, pardon me, but that is genuinely surprising, is Empire of Man. Empire of Man with 10 representatives and a very underperforming faction. You're definitely
can we put a pin in this? Because I did end up having a conversation with a couple of people at the last Square Base GT. And while Warhammer Rob, the only person, this is not me, a different Rob, the only person I'd actually turn to for stats out there at the moment, because he's not bringing in a bunch of noisy data from some truly shocking sources. So I'm going to put a pin in their performance even being bad. And that's, but you're right, because of the online buffoonery, therefore there definitely is kind of a meta assumption about the Empire of Man being bad, which I think is a really fair point. And I think, like you've always said before, sometimes it's not even the facts, it's the feeling of the statement. And I think that's a good point. With the feeling that the Empire of Man might be bad, still really popular.
I would say that they are certainly not an S-tier faction. For example, one that is definitely an S-tier faction, Vampire Counts. Again, if everyone can take the best thing in the game, I think it's hard to argue Vampire Counts wouldn't be one of the best things in the game. Interesting. I mean, they're not far off the lead. They've got 7, and Orcs and Goblins have 12. But like that, it's just interesting that when you have pick of the field, people are still playing what they know and what they like.
Do you know what? It's
cool.
actually even bigger than that. That's like, this is like, I might print this out, and anytime anyone says, yeah, but competitive gamers, and might beat them to death with it rolled up, because actually, I think your point is actually really stunning. And if there's any takeaway from this show already, although I know we've got loads to talk about, that is your takeaway. That's your Facebook groups, your dumb Reddit threads, everything you could ever think to engage with in the hobby. This basically says you can take the strongest army in the game if you want, and I agree, vampire counts are very, very strong. And then people are like, "Do you know what? I might take ogres. Like, I might take Bretonia." And you're like, why? And it's because inherently people want to play the armies they want to play. There's no better description of that existing and being real than what we're looking at here, like, in my personal opinion. And actually, that should be something that we shout about more, I think. That's actually huge news. Huge news.
And another thing too is like that faction loyalty, or maybe it's mechanic loyalty. Maybe they just do something that you think is cool, and then from there trying to make it work, right? Like we actually had because of the no shows, I did add 2 gate crashers who did not officially qualify, but I did let them in. They're late ads. I have no idea how they didn't realize we were doing this. We've been talking about it a month, but anyway. They did come in handy to fill out the pairings, and but like one of them's bringing like a peasant-themed Bretonian army, so hopefully they play 2 weeks in a row, but or maybe I'm just being cynical about that. Like it's everyone is going to bring what they think is either cool or good, and I think the numbers play that out. It's really cool. Anything here leaping out at you is kind of fascinating.
Yeah, not really. I guess warriors. There's not a massive distinction between, like you say, between warriors and orcs and goblins. Orcs and goblins. I mean, Tomb Kings maybe. Like Tomb Kings were. Sorry, Tomb Kings were. Oh God, Tomb Kings were never a particularly popular faction. Obviously with the release and being like one of the poster children of the new edition, I think a lot of people have built up the hype about Tomb Kings. But putting Tomb Kings on the tabletop and being like, I'm just gonna fucking put these bony boys down. Wild, in my opinion. I think Empire is much more evocative, as is Kingdom Bretonia. It's not to diss my Tomb King brethren, brothers, sisters, MBs. I'm just saying, I'm quite surprised because they're not super thrilling, I don't think. They have some pretty great mechanics, actually, especially like reserve move stuff. I feel like you got a lot of control. Dwarven Mountain Holds. Wow.
Unbelievable.
Can I tell you something? You
had the chance to not play dwarves. You had the ability to play anything else, and still 8 people were like, no.
You're not going to fuck around with them weird little freaks, but
Wood Elves, I think, showing up at a reasonable clip here. Finally, like they are going to be a significant part of this show, of this tournament as it unfolds. We've been talking about where are the Wood Elves. They have shown up. 8 players is nothing to sneeze at. So that's pretty cool.
What bothers me is that we haven't seen those Wood Elves end up making it onto the tabletops at the minute, or at least not locally at my events. And I'm a little bit upset about that, because I'd be really interested to see what Wood Elf players are saying, to be honest. Chaos Dwarfs, I loved seeing the Chaos Dwarf list, if I'm 100% honest. And I was a little bit disappointed by the Ogre representation being a little bit lower than it was. Although, again, like a lot of these feelings and mental state, I understand armies are legends, in quotation marks, renegade factions. But, what I would consider to be some of the most popular armies, Lizardmen and Ogre Kingdoms of Warhammer Fantasy Battle 8th edition, being some of the least popular to play, is wild. It's wild to see, personally. And similarly, seeing Beastmen down at that lower end as well, when they are a current faction, is kind of spicy.
Yeah, Beastmen are a current faction, and by all accounts, pretty good.
Really good.
Although the list build, the archetype though that was brought to this was similar across all 3 lists. So maybe that's an indication that maybe they kind of a one-trick pony. I don't know. I don't know them in depth. So I look forward to maybe matching up against them and seeing what these beastie men are all about. But Demons of Chaos continued to be like just like this happened. This has been shown in real life too, like a very, very look past faction. And I think based on my experiences playing against Skaven, and I played against Skaven in person 3 times. I can't believe people are playing them. They are very it's tough sledding, and also just doesn't feel good like playing them because they don't seem to have any moves. So maybe I'm fully wrong about that, but I mean that speaks to some faction loyalty there. People trying to make Skaven work, and hopefully we see some cool results from them. But they feel very hard done by. So it's cool that they're still getting on the table.
Yeah, I think it's gonna the differences between the legend armies and thingy armies are going to feel core armies are just going to feel more and more distinct as time does go on. Like the sheer orcs and goblins just feels just wow, so broad, so in depth, and some of the others do feel super super light. And it's unfortunate that breadth is only going to increase as time goes on. To be honest, because my love to all of I collected both ogres, lizard men, chaos dwarfs in that list of stuff that in quotation marks doesn't exist. So I completely feel that. I would say I'm not surprised by this. I'm not surprised to see Troll Horde and Nomads 3%. I think everyone is very excited about Fanatics. Fanatics have easily got one of the most fun mechanics in the old world, and I'm not surprised to see them up there. I think people just want to throw Fanatics out, bud. If I'm being honest with you, I think they just love doing it.
It's a great feeling to have the Fanatics, that's for sure. And staring down the teeth of them also probably a little life affirming. I am surprised that there of that Orc and Goblin contingent of players that there aren't more Troll Horde players. Dear friend Danny McDevitt of my other show. Somehow I'm still on a 40K show, guys. So I can't quit them.
Can I just quick timeout? How's 40K doing?
There's something big's about to happen for 40K.
Oh, yeah?
They're about to get a whole bunch of. They're basically getting their general's handbook. They're getting new missions. So 40K and AOS are currently like frozen in ice. Because everyone's waiting. So yeah, there's no 40K, there's no AOS. Everyone should be playing the old world.
Imagine being frozen on ice for a couple of months, not 10 years, right?
Oh, we're healthy. So but what I was gonna say about like Troll Horde, which is something Danny got hip to. One of the big things about going up against Screams is, obviously debuffing the leadership, using spells to make it so that you cannot use the inspiring presence of your general. Well, Troll Hordes share their leadership from the general, or actually other like things like the troll princess. It's not inspiring presence. It's in fact they just get to use the leadership of that troll character. So they are immune to that having their inspiring presence turned off in some respects, and so they're able to withstand screams very well. So if vampires are going to be a demon in the meta, Troll Horde might be an option out there, folks.
Yeah. That's quite interesting. I think this will tie in when we get to that. That will tie into the FAQ that we put together as well. So Val mainly. I just did some yeses and nos for the SBOT FAQ because there's some interesting stuff there, especially around leadership. Tomb Kings. How do you feel about Tomb Kings being present?
Oh, they're just very good. Like both the undead armies are very good. I think like the combination of just not participating in the whole psychology aspect of the game, the buff that they get to their, the buff that they get to their BSB. It's literally it's the flip of the way 8th edition fantasy used to be, in which undead armies did not bother taking their BSB, and everyone else, generally speaking, would bring a BSB, Battle Standard Bearer, for rerolls around leadership tests. But in this game, the BSB was sort of limited to panic and break checks and things like that. Undead are immune to psych. and don't really break from combat. They crumble. So the rules were changed so that their banner now allows them to reroll leadership checks. Basically, gives them a veteran bubble, and so many of their really key abilities, proc off of a leadership check. So the fact that they have a much more powerful BSB, don't participate in the psychology, and are able to re-roll a lot of times their most important roles for bringing back units and things like that, means that undead are just immediately on a really high footing. Tomb Kings have fantastic units. The Tomb Scorpion's got to be one of the most efficient units in the game. It answers a lot of questions that a lot of lists are going to be providing. Namely, it has, Monster Slayer built in. It can pop up wherever the hell you want it to. It's just, Tomb Kings are awesome. Like, they really are awesome. And I do think there was love in the old days for Tomb Kings, but they were like sort of like Tomb Kings reminded me a lot of the way I kind of feel about Skaven right now, which is like when you looked at their army list, it was just sad. It was just like, why is this so boring? Why is this so lame? Why is this so expensive? And now they have none of those problems. They have very efficient choices. They have a number of different list builds. Like you can even just see here, half Mortuary Cult, half Grand Army, even a Royal Host. So like there's suddenly a very cool, very deep army that you can build and play with, and it's great.
Okay, interesting. Now, I'm unsurprised. I think Empire feel like flavor of the moment right now. I think it's quite interesting. The production meta, the play on tabletop meta, the get miniatures out there, go to events meta, the online discourse meta, are all these surrounding meta narratives and engagement about these different armies and how they play. And unlike other game systems, shout out to the old world as a game. The game is built and predicated on the concept that tempo is yours to play with. So if you're playing a Sigmar 40k, you have to go on the objective. You have to do the secondary mission. But in the old world, you just have to kill more points than an opponent. It's both simple, but also deeply complex, which is why I made it the first video I ever made about the old world. Obviously not just my first edit. I was like, you got to focus. I think Empire now has come into the fore. It's been like, okay, got a lot of dragons, got a lot of cannons, dickhead. And you're like, right, okay. So what are your experiences been, and how do you feel about Empire being so popular?
So Empire, for one thing, I think Empire far and away, whenever they've done release stats for Total War, Warhammer 1, 2, and 3, I'm pretty sure Empire often comes out at the top of the heap as the most popular faction, because it's one of the two humans, and so I think it follows that Empire would. I think a lot of players, especially if you're a new player and you're coming through, if you found this game through something like Total War, maybe you're just inclined to play with your dudes.
Well,
that might be something.
Just to put a pin in that, because also the other two human factions, Kislev and Cathay, both also were, I think, 2023 one of the most popular factions. I think they both were.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, they were the launch factions of Warhammer 3, yeah.
Yeah,
so,
I understand that. But I'm just saying that I think that there is something about just wanting to be the human dudes in the fantasy setting. It ties in with ultimately Old World is just your most generic fantasy setting. There's elves and dwarfs and dragons and shit like that. And so I'm unsurprised that people want to be the dudes, because you want to be the dudes.
You just want to be the humans, the human beings, the people. It's and faced against impossible odds. And also, they've got they're I don't know. I kind of like their aesthetic. I was reading a thread about Empire, about how they are where their technology sits relative to the way that their uniforms are designed and all that kind of stuff. They're just sort of in a very interesting historical spot. As far as how they look on the table and how they feel, they have a certain degree of technology, artillery, and a steam tank, but they also have knights on horseback. They have, but they also have they've also got shooting cavalry. They got dragoons basically, and the outriders. There's just a lot of cool, evocative things that they have, and I don't know. I really love the Empire. I always get pulled back into if there is just a sliver for me to like get out just the humans. I do. Yeah, I'll talk about my experiences with them very soon because I've been having, I wouldn't say success playing Empire, but I've been having a lot of fun playing Empire, and I'll explain why later.
I mean, that is the most important part. So how have people responded to the SBOT list generally? Because we do have all of them available, and we'll obviously include the link down below so everyone can go check it. Everyone can go check them out. Let us know what you think looking through the list. We've already had. Val, this is how much of the tip of the content creator iceberg, Square-based, and also the work that you're doing at the moment, is that the follow-up is that we now have people making videos about the content we're making. You set up a tournament, now people are making content about you making a tournament.
So this guy, he's like a plant. He has the nerve. All right, he has the nerve. He shows up at your tournaments, right? He shows up at your tournaments in person, like eyeball to eyeball. This guy, Ed, and then he becomes a patron. He gives us money,
right?
And then he joins the SBOT, and then when we release the lists, immediately rushes out and makes a 40-minute video going over the lists in detail and providing wonderful insights on it. So, like, what is this? Like, it's just absurd. We're trying to content mill here. Yeah, like I mean, what about our takes?
What are we gonna do?
So I believe it's 6++.
Yeah,
is that his channel? Yeah. So anyway, there we go. A little plug for him because actually I really did like what he did. And Ed does a breaking news video and does a rundown of each faction, his takes on it. It was really well done. So check it out if you like. And also have a look at
he's doing. That's what he's doing.
Taking money out of taking food out of our mouths. But no, man, like I think quality content in the old world is awesome. I love to see it. There's lots of creators out there. Andy 2D6.
Yeah.
I'm gonna plug him because he kicks ass.
Also a club mate.
Also a club mate. Basically, it's all running through Nottingham, the TSN. It is the nexus of international Warhammer, the old world.
I would say if you are out there, like it's complimentary ultimately. Like if you are out there and we bring up some stuff or there's some stuff that we can help you with, it's fun because most importantly, and this has always been Val's opinion and goal and mine as well, building a community, and that is going to mean other creators, other TOs, other people. Val is on me to make sure I put all the TO resources up on the internet. Need to do that. Like, there's so much stuff that we want to do. So definitely feel free to jump in on those conversations and be a part of it. Because we need to build an old world community. We need to build an active player base. We need to. We do not need to stress about everyone buying stuff. We're not here flogging Games Workshop minis. No matter how many NDAs we all sign.
That's right. We're NDA'd so much that we can't even talk about it after the NDA is lifted. Like, it's crazy.
The double NDA.
We're double NDA. Yeah. We're just, wow.
Yeah. So we're here to build the community, right? So like, I think it's actually nice that there's something that's so impactful to the old world community that other people are making content about it. That's actually pretty cool.
I really do think it's wonderful. And yeah, and just I haven't actually gone out to see because I did sort of release the PDF, and I guess we'll link it in the description. I'll host it, I guess, on a Google Drive or something. But we have the PDF, it's just fun to see, and also it was great content. I think he's clearly a degenerate old world player. He's abandoned his 40K project as well to do this. From by the sound of it, so it's good stuff. I'm really happy to see it, and would love to see more. I'd love to see folks. I have seen someone when they were trying out Warhol. They saw that it sort of generates sort of an automatic battle report if you do it right, and they thought it was so cool. They made a little video about it using the. It kind of looks like a White Dwarf battle report is what it spits out. Jeez. So there's lots of cool ways to like share your games. Share what's happening. You can check out on newrecruit.eu if you just want to follow along the tournament. Look at the list, look at matchups, and sometimes even see those match reports, like how things were scored. You can see that on New Recruit. You go to the tournaments tab. It should be open to the public. You should be able to see it. If not, I'll make sure that you can. I'll link that in chat as well. So even if you're not participating, you can follow along on newrecruit.eu.
So did you happen to have a favorite list that got entered that wasn't yours?
No, I'm all in on my own personal list at this point. I will admit that I have been elbow deep in making sure everyone has an opponent and less what they're playing with. So I did some of those like broad stats. I have not actually even been able to pry enough time out, and I was having fun for my birthday to really go deep on lists. But I'd love to see some of your highlights. You got
yeah. So have you got the PDF up? I thought I could read them out to you.
Well, here, just
I'm sharing it, but I just wanted you to be able to see them.
Oh yeah, well, in the video. You can share it in the video.
Yeah.
But here, I'll pull up Twitch here. I got Twitch up. Okay, I got Twitch. Magic of our production here. All right.
This is just
Twitch
funnier.
is up.
This is just funnier though if you bring up the PDF. That's why. That's why I really want that to happen.
All right, PDF is inbound. Give me 1 sec here.
It wasn't meant to be. It's meant to lure you into that, but we're gonna go for it anyway. So my first favorite list was page 20 by Fletch.
Okay.
Page 20 by Fletch.
Page 20 by Fletch. I'm on my way.
We're going to it. Page 20, Fletch. So I'll just bring this up for everyone so everyone can see. Fletch, 2,000 points.
Okay, 1920. Fletch, I'm here. Chaos Dwarfs. Okay.
Oh, perfect. Demon Sorcerer, Hand Weapon, Heavy Armor, Level 1 Demonology. A Khan, Sorcerer Prophet, and then he's got Demonology as well. And then obviously on a Bell Taurus. Some Hobgoblin Cutthroats, Infernal Guard, Unit 15, another Unit 5. This is all combat, which is very odd. Infernal Guard, but importantly for me, 2 Deathshriekers and a Dreadquake. Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
And an Iron Demon.
That's
a lot of DACA in these parts.
And a nice little unit of Hobgoblin Wolf Riders there too. Nice little chaffing unit. That's fantastic. 2 bricks of the Cutthroats. But yeah, like there's a lot of beef on the table on this one.
Yep. So my next favorite list is page 34, Joseph Abel.
Okay.
Let's go check that out.
Shouting out Joseph Abel.
Yep.
Carrick Agnar in the Discord. Also Chaos Dwarfs. Perhaps the most efficient list I've ever seen written. This is tight.
This is tight. Black Orc War Boss though. Shout out Troll High Trousers, and this guy's on a Wyvern, isn't he? So he's brought that Wyvern in, so because they said that you can use all of the stuff from the other book, which is pretty spicy.
Including Ed Button so he's got an extra impact. He's got impact hits and an effigy of Mork, which fudge, I can't remember. I think that might be Magic Res if I recall correctly. Magic Resistance. Anyway.
Then Sorcerer Prophet on a Bell Taurus as well. He's got those 5 Black Orcs you need to bring in, 21 Infernal Guard, again just hand weapons, and then 2 Iron Demons. All right.
Jeez.
Yeah. So the shoot and then the punch.
This is this is the opposite. There is not a lot of beef on this table.
There's not a lot of beef on this table.
Well, I guess there's some big hunks of beef. You got the double Iron Demon. This will be interesting to see how this one plays out, because just not a lot of units here. That is high stakes.
So my next favorite list was Kevin, page 21. Sorry about that.
21.
Realize
20. We're backtracking.
I know. I've done that in a bad order. I'm sorry.
Kevin. Oh, what? Oh, head fake. Oh, no, definitely not a head fake. Definitely not. It's the second half of page 21. Very good.
So Kevin running Chaos Dwarfs. This time, though, 3 Hobgoblin Khans. 3. Pretty spicy. Sorcerer Prophet on a Bell Taurus again. Lamassu. Sorry, Lamassu this time.
I like the Lamassu.
I do. Me too. And then some Hobgoblin Cutthroats, some Infernal Guard, some more Infernal Guard, and then 2 Iron Demons, 2 Deathshriekers. Boom.
So it's funny. Like this is sort of halfway between those two. This one, I don't know. What do I like the most? I probably like this one the most. I mean, if you're gonna go 1 Iron Demon, why not 2 Iron Demons? You know, I think that feels right. I don't know how well they play out. I mean, all these people did have the chance, obviously, to play their lists during the exhibition phase, and so they know what they're doing at this point, in theory.
So I'm really feeling like if you used to be a Skaven player, you're now a Chaos Dwarf player. That's where I'm at, because Double Death Shrieker is like 120 a piece. Yes, it's 240. It's not really tons in your list. Sure, it's 12.5% of what you're taking, but it's like absolutely like a lottery machine of fun. Because you'd be like, sure, you're probably going to blow yourself up a couple of times, and you can spend points to get rerolls or whatever. But you're just out there just being like, I might just D6 off a dragon. Like, I just might do that this game. And, like, that's pretty spicy, in my opinion, for 240 points. So I love that. Then my final list.
Uh-huh.
I told you it was funnier if we brought up the PDF. Right.
But we have 5 Chaos Dwarf players. So this is your final list.
Is Zach, page 64.
64. Gambit, the final. Oh! Change up.
Okay, King.
Mad about having to write a list. Excellent.
What I like about this, though, is like, and I kind of wanted to see this from the Empire list. I understand that Empire's like, everyone's gravitating towards the gun line, but I've never really seen like maxed out demigryphs or like as many as you could take, which I find weird. I don't really know why. Maybe it's like a points thing. Maybe you can only get 2 units of 3 in, or, but I like this because it's just absolutely beefcake Morfang Cav units, which I think is fun.
I'll tell you this, as a person who was playing Grand Army Orcs and played 1 game of Nomads, I'll tell you why. Actually figuring out how to do combat properly in this game, instead of just magic fanatics and like range things and like big smashy characters, very hard. It's very hard to know where to commit and where to put your big beat sticks. But the double Mornfang here, that's gnarly.
I think it's 2 4s. I think I'm reading that right. It's 2 4s, right?
Yeah, it is.
That's a lot of board presence. I feel like that's a load of like, and then there's also a big unit, 2 big units of Iron Guts as well. But they're running that minimum like. So I wrote some lists with 3s, but then do 2 times 4s, and I think that's quite spicy personally. I really like that. And then there's also a Tyrant on the Stonehorn. So you got to deal early on. You got to deal with the Tyrant with the Stonehorn. And then you've got the 2 units of Iron Guts and 2 units of Mornfang running at you as like one-line smashers. Feels quite nice. There's another list that's got like 2 times 3 Dragon Ogres and Strike Last Aura. I think Chaos is always going to do everything better because of Strike Last Aura. I quite like this. I think it's just spicy. So it's just fun.
Mornfang are a load, and like for as much attacks and like as much as they dump out, like 328 points doesn't actually feel that expensive for what they can do, how much smash they have. And the fact that on top of that, there's a Tyrant and he got a level 4 Slaughtermaster in here. This is awesome. Running battle magic as well, that fills a lot of holes for the ogres. Also gives you that double move ability. Although just free balling it though. No lore familiar for this one. So hopefully getting the spells that he wants to help drive this. But battle magic is so sick, and I think really does pair nicely here.
It does also allow me, the last list that I liked allows me to gloat a little bit, because I have now printed half of my Old World Ogre army, ready to hit the club tabletop when I'm back.
Yes.
When I'm back. I'm actually away next week in Amsterdam for the Age of Sigmar World Team Championships, where I will be only taking notes, because I have told them it's my last World Team Championships, because I can't be bothered with that. Because I'm excited about the Old World Team Championships.
Oh!
So I'll be taking notes. I'll be like, how do we make 2 teams of 8 play against each other? Well, number 1, not 8. Let's just make those 5. And then international teams, sure, but you can just be from any country. That's fine. Just go. 7 teams from the USA. I'm in. 9 Welsh teams. Let's go.
I think we just do 2 teams from the United States, but they have to be all Republicans and all Democrats. I think that's the only sensible way to do it.
That's so good. That's actually really funny. Okay, all right. I love that idea. Let's go.
Somehow, if Russia and Ukraine were at the event, they would get along better than those two teams. So I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah.
All right. What do we got?
So those are the lists. We'll put the link down below. There's loads of stuff that you can go check out about that, which is really fun. Val, off the back of that, you obviously are playing Empire, but that Empire list is refined off the Empire list you played this weekend, right?
Yes, although untested and completely just a no look send. Shall we talk about my list evolution and experience?
Please
Maybe
do.
fact at the end.
Please do. Oh yeah, there's going to be the FAQ. Oh, do you want to do the FAQ for that spot? Which you want to do?
Well, we're talking lists. Let's do this, and then we'll talk rules at the end. I think that's a great way to. We'll wrap it up with the fact, with just the facts. Do we have my? Well, here. So I'll talk about first what I was running like as my Empire list. It was heavily based on Morpheus. I believe Morpheus is the guy. Jack.
Yeah.
Right.
Jack in the chat.
Oh shoot! I accidentally scrolled to his list, so that's fantastic. So Jack was running. I was inspired by Jack's original list that he ran a number of weeks ago. Now, basically brought as many guns as he possibly could. And that included missile state troops. He was bringing, 2 hell cannons, 3 great cannons. He had outriders, which was so cool to me. And I just wanted to run that. And I ran basically that which I could put on the table as quickly as I could. And I was like, all right, this is kind of fun. And I sort of evolved that to a list that, for me, I added more heavily into archers. After playing against a person in the SBOT, he pointed out that like actually running instead of the state missile troops, he was like, I think bringing knights is a better option in core, because Empire does struggle with what your efficient core is. I think hands down their best core option, especially if you're doing something that's very shooty. Just to give you a little bit of board control, redirectors, speed bumps, are Empire Archers. So I bring 6 units of Empire Archers, basically most of them with scouts, so they can deploy out ahead of the army. And again, just sort of get in the way and be annoying and give me a little bit of time to do my shooting. And then I fill out my core with, now I do that with Empire Knights. In my SBOT list, I have, well, actually in the list I ran at X Planet, I had 2 units of 5 Empire Knights with the Prospector or the Proctor. No, anyway, Preceptor, whatever the friggin' sergeant is. Okay, and then I had 2 mortars. I had 3 great cannons. I had 2 hellblasters. I had just some guy waving a sword as the general. Gave him the Ruby Ring of Ruin. Just so I had some magical shooting, because I was running my Wizard Lord with Lore Familiar, Illusion Magic, and then I had 3 Empire Engineers who are just so clutch at making the Hellblasters, especially the Hellblasters, but also the cannons just a little more reliable. The number one thing that I love about this list is that, and I after I played, so many rounds, but I've probably played 5 or 6 games now with this style of list, is that it's a gambler's army. So like, if you crave the action, if you need to like win big or go bust, there's nothing like just rolling dice for your life, because that's what you're doing. In the first 2 turns, you are just, everything is on those dice rolls, and they can go for you or against you, but when they go for you, whew, feels good. And and then if you're enough of a gambler, when it goes bad, almost feels better.
Really?
That's the thing. A true gambler really craves the losing as much as the winning. And so yeah, if you just crave the action, this is the list for you. And that was basically what I was finding in my 2 games. So I won. I described that game that I had against Oz, which was a thriller. Again, a lot of like tight dice rolls, so much Warhammer stuff happening throughout it. That was on last week's show. And then when I was at the tournament in my first 2 games, my first game I got to play my dear friend Caleb. He was running Tomb Kings, and it's one of those things. He had a dragon and he had a Necrosphinx with a big heavy like fast moving things that could really get in my face. And the Necrosphinx, I poured what I had into it and got it down to 1 wound, and he didn't die. He stayed on that 1 wound and was able to then make contact with me and heal all of his wounds. Great, thanks, Undead. Right. So like at that point, it was kind of out of control, and it wasn't over. Like we played the game out, and it was really, really entertaining. But from there, it becomes about like how do you arrange your units to like fall back and not panic everybody, and like try and do whatever you can to basically reform your shooting line so that you can get shots in again and try and make a comeback. Didn't happen for me, but it was again pretty thrilling. It was great. My second game I played into vampire counts. And this is actually, I think, an achievement. I thought it was really cool. I positioned, my opening move was I vanguarded up my outriders and hid them behind basically a piece of terrain that was blocking line of sight to one of the units on the right. And he had essentially a big zombie unit on the right. And in the center, he had a big zombie unit behind which was his level 4 necromancer. He had one on a mortis engine as well, but this one was pretty important. And I thought to myself, if I can kill 26 zombies in a turn of shooting with everything else, then I will have a unit of outriders that can just gun that necromancer down because he wouldn't be protected anymore.
Okay.
And I killed every single zombie with my shooting, which is crazy. Like, I don't know, doing 26 wounds,
in
just 26
in
this game is nuts. Like, yeah, that's a lot. So I got some good, again, Gambler's Army. I got those rolls, and it was a gambler play as well. And then I evaporate the zombies. He was shocked. Like, he was just like, oh no. And then I unleash with the outriders who get the wounds. The necromancer only had all he had to work with was a 6-up regen save. And he stuck 3 6-up regen saves, saved him. It kept him on 1 wound remaining, and so the play didn't work out. I had lots of other things I could do in that game because he was coming at me with screams and terrorgeist, but I wasn't able to bring things down efficiently. His mortis engine was on a hot streak with ward saves and things. So again, like I just wasn't able to get the damage. Like in those first 2 games, like I had all the damage I needed -1. And so like it was just, but that was exciting. So the rest of the game then again is still pretty thrilling. It's how do I keep enough alive to like get some points out of this and or deal a decisive blow. Like maybe I can get the mortis engine, and I probably should have been able to, but didn't work out. I had a turn where 3 of my great cannons misfired. That shit happens. So and then my final game, I played a guy with Skaven and just made him evaporate. Like it was fun. He was a nice guy, but like it wasn't a very entertaining game. But like they were all 3 of those games were good. So I took away from that. Maybe we can pull up my SBOT list. Can we find it real quick? Is it on here? I hope it's on here.
So yeah, your list is up here, page 61.
Yeah, so this is page 61, and based on my learnings, and also just like I guess I kind of got a little bit bored with the army I had, I've decided to go not with just all the guns, but most of the guns and some wizards. And specifically, one thing that I was finding, and I've been playing Lore of Illusion a lot as my like anti-dragon defense for a while, and I think I'm not good enough to make good use of that. And so I was getting like really poor value out of the Lore of Illusion, and magic is one of my favorite things. I'm not saying Lore of Illusion is bad. Do not say that. I'm just saying that for me, I find it hard to position correctly. And and again, a decisive dispel of the Crystal Column, or coming up a little bit short with your your Miasmic Mirage roll, and suddenly that thing that's supposed to be holding back the enemy is not holding back the enemy. You're screwed. So I decided that this army has lots of speed bumps. It's got lots of chaff. I've got 3 great cannons. Those can deal with T6 stuff just fine.
The Hellblaster, the Empire Knights chaff. Is that what you're saying? Like the 5 knights. Interesting. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, survivable chaff bit. To be honest.
So I mean, they're able to do more than that. But essentially, like sometimes what you don't want is a unit that's just immediately going to get overrun. because there's squishy stuff behind that. So you need time to be able to move things out of the way or reposition. And so the Empire Knights allow me to do that, or they allow me to actually go hit a unit that they might be able to, win a combat with, because they do have first charge. They've got counter charge. 2 of them have drilled because it's so cheap on them. It's an extra point. So they can also move far. So if I need to get them somewhere, you put them in marching column, and they're able to just rip across the table, 21 inches. Really cool that way. They can declare a charge out of that. They have, and on this one, I've got, 4, I guess I didn't quite get the 6 units of archers. I've got 5 units of archers in here. One of them doesn't have scouts, so that's just all points. But essentially, this was where I got to, because I did want more knights. I found that they were actually really great as more of the archers are good speed bumps and annoying units, but the Empire Knights are like, they have enough meat that they can actually like hold something up maybe for more than one round of combat, right? Yeah. Or go and kill something that's below them on the food chain. However, as I was mentioning before, I have for a long time really loved battle magic. Battle magic has 2 excellent damage spells, obviously in Fireball and
Pillar of Flame.
And the Pillar of Flame. I have a lot of fun. And then outside of that, they have the ability, like these guys are all on Pegasi. So they have the ability to give themselves a 5-up invuln. They have the ability to double move, either themselves or someone else. Very handy for getting things going. And something I've never actually found a use for, but I have Hellblasters now. They have Curse of Arrow Attraction. So the ability to reroll 1s on a target unit, really great if you're shooting 20-something shots with a Hellblaster. That's going to give you some really clutch rerolls. And because these guys are on Pegasus, it's a really cheap upgrade. It's like 30 points to give them, movement 10, an extra wound, some hooves.
Is a level 4 Wizard Lord on a Pegasus 190? That is cheap.
Bare bones, baby. Yeah, bare bones. Just 1/9 level 4 battle magic on a Pegasus. Now those guys are just rolling.
Is there any restriction on those guys? Like, can I take 5?
No, but you can take 3, as far as I can tell. Right. Yeah, so I took 3, and one of them I did juice up a little bit, so I gave Lore Familiar. So that way, I mean, I've learned the hard way that if they're like, even with 3 of them, there's an odds are like it's possible to just not get the spells I want, i.e. the damage ones or like the double move and things like that. So it's good to have one that has that ability to have it. I gave him also Ruby Ring, so he'll have double Fireball. He'll have Pillar of Fire. He's on a Pegasus. He can double move. So this guy is going to be able to just cause a ruckus, and I'm going to have a lot of fun putting him in places that my opponent will not enjoy. I did get the Dragon Bow back into this list on my Captain of the Empire, because obviously I gave the Ruby Ring somewhere else. Dragon Bow is a strength 6 shot at a pretty good AP and does 2 damage, which basically makes it the equivalent of something I had to drop, which were my mortars, which are a strength 6 in the center, -3 AP, D3 damage. So, I'm hoping that Dragon Bow, the next time I have the stupid Necro Sphinx at 1 wound, or the guys just hanging on 1 wound, I have one last gambler's roll to like just take that last little piece of damage off with that.
That's fun.
So I don't know if this is good, guys, but I will tell you that I know that it is fun, and I'm going to have a lot of fun ripping around on flying horsies, still shooting my cannons, still dumping my Hellblaster volley guns, still being annoying with my chaff. So I'm excited to try this out. Hopefully it's fun enough that like I get 6 games out of it that I won't regret. Because again, I haven't played this archetype at all. This was the other list. I wanted to test this list and the other list. The more of the Morpheus Jack style shooting centric focus. Although he's also added things to his list to flesh it out. This is what I still want, and this is fundamentally still a shooting list, just the most efficient type of shooting, which is magic missile shooting and Pillar of Flame. So that's all pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's super fun. And I can see what you mean by that. I've watched 2 games of Empire Gunlines playing now, like the games we've recorded, and I've seen some absolute tragedy in the dice rolls. But like on the other side of that, watching them, I was like, if they'd have rolled the other way, you're just lifting stuff. You're just lifting stuff so aggressively and so fast. That's super interesting. And 3 pillars of flame is no fucking joke in this game. That is absolutely wild shit, in my personal opinion. So
I only have 1 pillar of flame banked, but yeah, up to 3. It's not like, it's actually kind of funny. This feels actually a bit like a wood elf list. Because wood elves can guarantee a lot of pillar of flame action. So yeah, I did contemplate, rather than doing 3 battle mages, to have 1 with elementalism, just to give me some extra AP where I need it. But fuck that. I went all in on battle magic because I just think it's fun.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's my list.
Yes, that's your list. I like it, bud. I'm not gonna lie, I like it. I think it's fun.
Oh, and then just on the engineers with the Hellblaster thing, something to point out that's cool in this edition is that essentially the engineer allows you to re-roll 1 of the artillery dice or lend their ballistic skill, and with the Hellblaster you roll all 3 dice at once. So you get to see that roll, decide whether or not you want to re-roll something, and if you don't re-roll, then you can do ballistic skill instead. So the engineer used to be a lot less permissive in previous versions. Now he's got some serious power. And if I don't wind up, needing that reroll or that, well, I pretty much always need the ballistic skill boost. But if you don't need that, then he's there to help the cannons reroll, a misfire on that first roll. So engineers are really, really clutch. If you're bringing cannons and hellblasters, I think that's just a no-brainer. Bring as many engineers as you can.
It's interesting. It doesn't feel like it's tons of points, but it's 45 points. It's nothing. I love that you've got.
Someone wants to do the spreadsheet math on it. It probably the efficiency increase on it. I would have to think is just especially on the Hellblasters. It's just incredibly massive. I re-rolled 1 actually in one game. I re-rolled. I had 2 misfires on the table. I re-rolled the 3rd to get the misfire, and so that way it shoots all 30 shots and then explodes. That was sick. I think was that how I evaporated the zombies? I don't think it was. I can't remember when that happened. But anyway, so yeah, there's cool things you can do with that reroll.
Okay. All right. Well, as well as writing lists, playing the games, we also just took the time to answer some frequently asked questions, which there is rumor of maybe another FAQ coming out from Games Workshop soon, and also obviously that battle pack that we're kind of waiting for that's also in the rumor mill as well as the fucking dwarfs. Where are they? But
shocker. I'm shocked that there are no dwarfs. But there's actually not a lot of anything right now, which is interesting too. For the beginning of a new year, they are shockingly not releasing a ton of stuff right now.
Although they did just make a ton of money and they're opening a new factory. Do you know that?
Yeah, it's interesting because their last financial report said that they had spare capacity and that they didn't have to build a new factory. So a bit of a 180, but at least they did the 180 instead of just doubling down on a bad idea. That's great. I applaud it.
And lying to the investors.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, they were saying they had spare capacity while not having any stock. So, yeah, exactly.
We'll see.
But yeah, we need more Warhammer players in that finance subreddit that gave us GameSpot.
Do you run the Warhammer finance subreddit? How's it going?
No, I do not, and none of this should constitute financial advice.
Okay, perfect. Well, yeah. So I want to. Yes, FAQ. Here it is. Some frequently asked questions. Now, we obviously also include a link to this as well. I'd like to be clear with everyone. What happens is when you're running an event, Val's running all online. I've also had to run them in person. When you get asked a question, as a tournament organizer, you have to answer the question. Sometimes the rules don't answer the question. So someone has to answer that question. And so we have...
I just changed the aspect ratio on it again.
Okay. Appreciate that.
I'm just trying to clean it up so that way you can just zoom in on it a little bit better.
Okay. But so these are not what we think everyone in the world should work with. This is not, we are deciding what the game is. This is none of those things. These are players who are playing our events, are asking questions, and we are, to the best of our assertion, giving an answer. Are these answers rooted in rules as written? Almost always to our interpretation. Does that mean that you could disagree with them? Of course. Like, that's fine. And if you want to play a different answer or you want to play a different rule with your friend, all of those things are doable. But we needed to come up with an answer, and so we came up with some answers for stuff. So please don't think we're trying to, like, make an independent FAQ or trying to create, like, some sort of, like, side game or anything like that. We're just trying to come up with some answers to some questions that people need answering. Super simple. I know it shouldn't need so much caveat in, but people get real pissy, so...
No, well, I mean, it does, because I mean, first of all, it is an interesting exercise trying to do this, because again, I mean, people can probably pick up on, like, I mean, you and I know lots about Warhammer: The Old World for sure, but there's a lot to know about Warhammer: The Old World, especially when you're getting into, like, very, very specific mechanics and interpretations of how they're written and how different things interact. It's on Grim After Dark yesterday, we were talking again about the Nova comp pack. So like it's tough because there are, unfortunately, in this game some interactions that do need some sort of a ruling to just avoid a disagreement at the table, right? Like, to avoid there being conflict over, because I think there are legitimate readings one way or the other in this. There are some of these things which I think are probably closer to the way we think it should work, or sort of our rules as intended look, because sometimes the raw, so like how things mechanically work, if you were to just follow by the line, would result in a play experience that maybe doesn't seem to make sense at in our aesthetic opinion. And so that's where it comes from. We're trying to create answers here that give hopefully a good play experience, are as close as we can to what we think, to the way that it feels like the game plays or what the intent is. But unfortunately, whenever you get into that intent conversation, that's a guess, right? Like, the only people who know clearly what the intention is are the writers of this. Luckily, they are active, they're listening, maybe even watching. How you doing, JTY? And therefore, actively managing the game. So I think we will see a lot of these answers get replaced by official ones, and then you can be mad at them about that. But a lot of effort did go into this and to trying to understand the question being asked, the actual things at play, and we just did our best using our experience and again, a lot of help from the very very detail-oriented people in the Patreon. My friends, everyone. Like, this came from a lot of sources. It started out as also with something. There's a community FAQ that seeks to have one that I think has sort of evolved out of the Warhammer Fantasy Discord. I did start there, but I very rapidly found that they were answering questions in sort of with a different philosophy than maybe I think Rob and I would have, and then also included a lot more. The other thing about FAQ is, what questions do you answer? Because if you answered every question, this FAQ would be 1,000 questions long, straight up. It'd be overwhelming. So, like, you got to sometimes just let things lie. So hopefully these are relevant and not too catastrophic. That would be my preamble.
Yeah, I think that's a super good point. I also think, like, we should just stay on methodology, which is to stick as close to the core rules as possible. And then to follow along with that methodology where we can find it. That's it. Super simple. We'd like this game to be as pure as it can be based on the core rules. In the future, if they decide to do some wacky stuff with the rules, will we deviate from them? That'll be a conversation we definitely have. But right now, I'd like to make this, I'd like us to have something that's as close to what everyone understands as possible, which is nice. So are there any big hitters? Because I don't think we need to go through everything here. But is there any big hitters that you'd like to kind of like cover out of this? Because there's definitely one that came up for me, which I ruled on, which I thought was great.
I think row 5, I mean, just right at the top, does a frenzied or impetuous unit need to declare a charge if there's a friendly unit in its way that would prevent it from completing a charge, even if the friendly unit could itself declare a charge and move out of the way? So this is one of those things where you don't have to basically the way this was interpreted and ruled is that you don't have to declare an impossible charge, and there is in the FAQ rulings for basically when and where frenzied and impetuous units have to declare charges, but they did leave it a little bit ambiguous in the sense of what if the unit can move out of the way? Because the player does have agency there.
Yeah.
So my thing is, though, the game state at that moment is determined by whether or not that unit actually does declare a charge. So it's not maybe if they declare a charge. If the player doesn't want them to declare a charge, they won't. Therefore, that frenzied or impetuous unit should not have to do it. So that's how we ruled it.
Yeah, which I think is a good point. The one that came up for me is on leadership. I'm not sure where that is.
Let me see if I can find it here.
Which we'll go find. The important part, this came up. Oh, it's on row 47. When using Inspiring Presence, does the unit take the general's unmodified or modified leadership characteristic? And furthermore, is that characteristic then modified by effects of the unit? And so the TLDR, because this came up a couple of times, we've had a lot of the insert vampire count screamer lists attend the TSN arena. And this came up on one day, and it's important to note that not only kind of one of the earliest adopters of the vampire list, James Ramsey, but also Rebecca, who was playing with the vampire army, and me all got into this conversation. So I'd like you to know that this is like two players playing or have played the list or playing the list, and also the TO got into this conversation. And the result effectively was that Inspiring Presence does not replace the characteristic. Instead, what you do is you use the characteristic of the general. So I've got a unit and I've got the general. Therefore, if I lower the leadership of a unit and I use a general's characteristic, I haven't affected the characteristic. Similarly, if I reduce the leader's characteristic, I can still elect to just use the unit's leadership. Very simple. So this is kind of like a nice way around, and probably the most supporting factor for this is that in the necromancy lore, then you have units that also stop you from using the general's leadership characteristic, right? And therefore, like, this ties into the fact that you're not replacing it, you're in fact using it, and there's like there's something stopping it, and that doesn't have like a massive in-game effect for a lot of stuff, but it does make some stuff quite interesting. It does mean if you are playing against a screamer list, then it's harder to debuff the leadership of a unit because you have to debuff the leaders. Like leadership as well as everything else, although obviously that necromancy spell was already going to stop that from happening, which is good. And there's a couple of other fringe case uses as well, but I think that's quite nice, and I think that makes a lot of sense personally. Like, so
yeah, and I think so. When we first ruled this, I honestly thought we were kind of making a judgment call. But as I had to like decide, do I dig my heels in? Because this was actually heavily debated. Obviously, it affects vampire counts, a strong army, significantly. But the reason why I dug my heels in is that as things are written right now, this really does seem to be how it works. So this is actually very much a raw interpretation by my read.
Me too.
And I think Rob's as well. Yeah. And it also happens to be also an interpretation that also dovetails with what I think is the best way for these mechanics to work. So that being said, I think there's a very good chance that this does get FAQ'd and changed, because the way we ruled this, if you were playing 8th edition fantasy, and I think this is why it's a bit contentious, if you read the 8th edition fantasy rulebook, Inspiring Presence would work actually how we talked about it here. It's actually worded the same. They lifted Inspiring Presence from 8th edition fantasy and put it into Old World. It is the same wording. However, in 8th edition, they later FAQ'd, and they weren't erratas, they were just FAQs, that the leaderships of the general could be modified, and then when that leadership was used, it would be modified again by any effects on the unit. And they just said that that's how it worked, right? So that is very possible that is where it will go, because that I think is the strongest. That is the strongest interpretation for like effects on leadership, and also the least strong interpretation for the effect of Inspiring Presence. Because another thing that's interesting about this is that Inspiring Presence, for example, would override, a -1 to your leadership for being below half and fleeing. It would, unless the general's leadership is impacted somehow. It could override a -1 for terror if you're in combat with a terror-causing creature. It does actually make Inspiring Presence more powerful. However, like everything in the rules refers to leadership characteristic, and the effects that tend to deal with leadership impact the unit, i.e. the target of the effects, leadership characteristic. So those two things are separate. When you're using, this is what Rob already said, when you're using inspiring presence doesn't say replace it, doesn't say substitute it, or anything like that. It says use the general's leadership characteristic. If that leadership characteristic is not being modified, you're using that one, right? And therefore the effects, so those things that are modifying the unit's characteristic are modifying that unit's characteristic, not the general's. And that's the concept we're using here. That being said, and also things like Spirit Leech turn off the ability to use inspiring presence. So that's a very powerful thing. The area of effect vortex that the necromancy has turns off the ability to use inspiring presence. So there are ways for Vampire Accounts players specifically, because they're immediately the ones who are going to be like, meh. But Terror Bomb list, any sort of those flavors will immediately be like, this is very powerful. But I think it is how it's set up in the rules. I think it makes the general very important, as he should be. And I think a lot of the hyperbole I saw coming back at me about this is like, oh, well, now everyone's just got general's leadership, which is bullshit. Everyone has played this game where their general is nowhere near where they need to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the general has even if you're on that 18-inch bubble, you can be outside of it. That's possible. And if you're not, that means the general is someplace where they can be in danger. So I think this does give Inspiring Presence a buff. It does make debuffing leadership a little bit more difficult for sure. But I do honestly believe this is how the rules are written as they are right now. And something too, especially when you're going up against Wailing Dirge, this is big. Wailing Dirge has a -2 leadership effect built into it. That would not work if you're within range of your of Inspiring Presence and able to use Inspiring Presence. They would just be using the unmodified leadership now on that Wailing Dirge. So I think this is a maybe not the way Vampire Accounts players would want to use it. I think it's not the way people would instinctually think it works based on how the game used to work. I think that's where we ran into a lot of problems with it. I would say this would probably be our most controversial decision, and yet ironically one of the most actual readings of the rules that we have in here.
Yeah, it's the most raw interpretation. And again, like I said, the two players who I spoke to specifically, both Vampire Accounts players, were like, yeah, that's how I think it works as well. I was like, great, I love that. It's happened a couple of times at my events. Like there's one in here about minimum distance as well, targeting unit within minimum distance, especially for things like grudge throw, stuff like that. And Richie, who's basically, in my opinion, maybe he might be the greatest player in the world. And I don't mean from necessarily an acumen standpoint, but
definitely getting a reputation.
I've run 7 events and he's won best overall 3 times. So I don't really know what to say. Anyway, but he
got some bona fides.
Yeah, he's got some bona fides. He was using a grudge thrower. I got called over the table. He's like, "Oh, Rob, I can't remember who was playing. I think the opponent he was playing was arguing that he would be able to target him because of where you place the template." He's like, no, he's within 12 inches. And I was like, that's true. And there's some other stuff in here as well. So he actually argued against himself and he won the argument. I was like, you're right, you can't shoot. That's correct. So classic. But yeah, I think there's some really good stuff in here. I don't think there's anything that needs to be. I don't feel there's anything that needs to go through in detail. I don't think. There's
basically 2 more I'd love to touch on, because one that I didn't even realize was contentious was what does closest target mean for targeting lone characters? Does the shooting unit need to be closer than the unit within 3 inches of the character, or closer than all potential targets? So this is actually wording right from the community FAQ. And they did wind up, I think, ruling it a little bit differently. So the things that are contentious are, if you're a 40K player, this seems like an intuitive rule, I think. Basically, characters can be invisible to shooting and targeting if they're hiding near another unit. They cannot be shot at. Things that that folks weren't necessarily clear on was, is it only the unit they're within 3 inches of that can be the closest target that triggers the thing? We're saying no. It's going to be for the purposes of determining what the closest target is. The lone character must be the closest enemy unit in range and line of sight of the shooting unit. So those are the conditions of targeting anything. when you're going through the steps of shooting, and that's what defines a target. Is it in range, and is it in line of sight? There's a third one though. And that's whether or not they're in combat. Normally, a unit in combat would not count as a target. And in this case, the way that I interpreted this was that there is a condition on the guarding unit, the unit that the character is within 3 inches of, that the only thing they need to be is not fleeing, right? So that's the condition there. So that this basically rules that even if that unit is in combat, they still count as a closest target, and can protect a lone character that's 3 inches away. This also does mean that if you're trying to shoot a character that's right in front of you, but you say you're a skirmisher, you can see in 360 degrees, and there's a unit that's a little bit closer behind you, that means that, yeah, you wouldn't be able to shoot that lone character if he was within 3 inches of the right unit. So that's how we're ruling. This one was surprising to me, again, with how contentious it was. I think that based on how things are written, this is one that you kind of have to make a ruling, because I don't think it's crystal clear as it is on the page what they mean by target and closest target, as simple as that may sound. So I'm sure this is very crystal clear to the writers of the game, but maybe just isn't defined well enough on the page to really hang your hat on it. So we went with this ruling,
which I support a lot. We went through these line by line together. And we went through those, and like it's a lot making decisions. You really do feel it's actually quite nice having done this in like the in the cold light of like a voice chat, like versus live at the table when the clock's ticking. I've had some like, oh, okay, that's a quick tough call. So having this stuff like available hopefully will be more helpful to people.
It's like Lionel, God bless him, at the X Planet event was confronted. I think he loves the idea of Old World, but he's not like super into it. So he just comes and basically adjudicates. And one of the players said, "Does Plague of Rust affect all saves? Because the saves are ward, regen, and armor saves." And Lionel said, "Yes, it does." Which is a read. Like, I don't think that is fully bullshit. We rule, of course, that no, unless it clearly says ward or regeneration. If it refers to a modifier on saves, they're talking about armor saves, not everything. But Lionel went that way, and that actually gave that Chaos Dwarf player a little bit of a boost to his sales. He did very well. But there are things like that where that snap decision could wind up with maybe a more aggressive ruling than you realize. And it's also interesting to see like how the community plays the game, because I think a lot of people come to conclusions, and there is like a wisdom of the mob about how a lot of these things are handled, and sometimes they are exactly as they're on the page, and sometimes when you do a close read, maybe not. So it's cool that way.
I think it's because no one is ever doing the close read. Like everyone's just being like, yeah, I kind of agree. Like actually going back to the rule book, cross-referencing, re-cross-referencing is a chore, and it just takes time to get that done, right? And I would never paint this brush on what has been created in Old World, because clearly they aspired to higher a standard than this, but there is a proud tradition of vibes-based rules writing for Warhammer games, and that includes Warhammer Fantasy, where like the subtext is, you know what I mean. And when you get gamers at the table, they don't necessarily know exactly what you mean. And so, like, I think skirmishers, there are more rulings in this FAQ about skirmishers than any other single topic, because I think skirmishers were not a fully baked concept in the rules and were bolted on and don't work properly in a lot of ways. So we do our best to clarify that. I think we do need to further clarify what it means, what a skirmish unit, what a unit in skirmish formation, what it means when they're engaged in combat and they form up, because that was picked apart a little bit in the Patreon, and I need to go back and tighten up some of that. But other than that, I think holistically, we've sort of answered some of the biggest weird interactions for skirmishers. And yeah, I don't know. It feels like we answered some bigger questions that most people will run into. There's still lots of minutiae that we could have had answers for, did not do. And like I said, I think there is another FAQ coming that will even further
clarify the intention and maybe even errata certain things that are clunky, like skirmishers.
I think
we'll see.
I think Games Workshop. I think Games Workshop are getting on it with answering this stuff. Unfortunately for us in the old world community, obviously, almost everything not almost everything. Everything they do is sales driven and located. Actually, awkwardly, just argue with myself for a moment. Not necessarily not necessarily out of SDS. Hilariously. Oh
yeah.
wait, yes, of course, Val. Well, their intent is that it's sales driven. Their application might be wildly different. But what I'm saying is we might have to wait till dwarfs are dropping. We might. I don't know when. That like what benefits them. Although most stuff we've seen from SDS doesn't seem to be necessarily orientated only around releases. So
the biggest thing I've seen so far, from because a lot of times when you're having, and this happens in AOS and 40K all the time, a new codex or whatever they are. What do they call the books in HC?
Battle terms. Well, with the FAQ done and SBOT happening, I think that's the end of the show today. Val, thank you very much. And again, special happy birthday to you. Please do leave some comments below.
Thank you.
Have you enjoyed the process of organizing all these people? Has it been an okay experience?
Oh, yeah, the people. I mean, when you're organizing people who get their stuff on time, are really excited to be there.
Yeah, some technical difficulties there at the end. We apologize. Yeah, so you were saying your experiences of running it?
Oh yeah, so in running the SBOT, I think it's been some work, but I've had great assistance from Hugo, who's the lead developer on Warhol, and also the people who've wanted to play have clearly actually wanted to participate. They've been playing their games. They've been really engaged. They've been watching games. If you're in the Patreon, you can go see and participate in these things as they're happening and learn or help. It's just been really fantastic. I've yet to hear. I mean, knock wood, I haven't heard of any really upsetting play experiences. So overall, right now where I stand, things are very positive and very happy to do it again with everything we've learned from this round so far. So, and of course, we got 6 rounds of a tournament to play. But the people who are keen to do this have really showed up, and that makes any effort that goes into organizing totally worth it. If it was pulling teeth and I was chasing people, and there was 25 no-shows instead of 4 or whatever it was, maybe it wouldn't feel as good. But definitely the juice is worth the squeeze, as they say right now, and I'm glad people seem to be having a good time.
Yeah, that's how I feel, mopping them floors on a Friday night. But seeing everyone's little happy faces as they miscast their wizard turn 1 is a joy to behold.
Yes.
And it'll always be. Also, I think I can let you know that I plan, and I'd like to cross-reference the dates with you, see how I can integrate you into it. I'm probably going to try and plan to stream our 2 sold-out events in August. We've got 2 fully sold-out events in August, so streaming them would be, I think, a delight. So we'll try and make that happen, which is good. And I don't know if you know this, bud. Don't know if you know this. You know that you are now dangerously close to commentary territory. Do you know that?
I would, if I had a chance, this would be it.
This would be it. So
this would be it.
This would be it. Val's always taken the role of the producer in that field, but he's at least got the color commentary knowledge now to take that seat.
I can fill time.
Yeah,
I can fill time.
Which would be good. Anyway, I hope you've all. Thank you to everyone who watches these videos, listens to this as a podcast, and helps support us on Patreon. Thank you to everyone. Special shout out to Val. He's my shout out for today. And a shout out to everyone who's watching. Appreciate you all a lot. And then we'll see you all next time. Stay square blessed. Stay square healthy. It's not. Yeah.